So I've just woken up. We're in Dong Hoi. Dong Hoi. Oh, I really struggle with these names in Vietnam. But I want to talk about this town because Michelle and I have rocked up here, and we only came for one day. We've stayed for a week now. It's a lovely little town. Let me go down to the coffee shop, order a coffee, and I'll talk to you about it. Just behind me on the coast here is the remnants of an old church. It's a Catholic church that was built way back, but it was destroyed during the Vietnam War, and it's just been left there as a sort of reminder. Right opposite the church, directly opposite the church, is ABC Cafe. This is my favourite little drinking hole in the whole of Dong Hoi. These are the guys. The lovely place, great atmosphere, lovely people. I'm going to find myself a little seat. Good morning. So you've got these little chairs. Oh. And here we are. Michelle and I normally come here in the morning. I've got a bit early this morning to do a little bit of filming. Enjoy myself a coffee. I love this Vietnamese coffee. It's so rich and strong, and they do add a little bit of the condensed sweet milk in the bottom. Not a lot, maybe teaspoon and a half. It sweetens the coffee. You add ice in. There's a little bowl full of ice. You add your ice into your coffee. So my morning coffee since I've been here has been cold coffee, but it's delicious. This particular place at ABC Cafe, the coffee, I can't explain it. It tastes like almost like molten chocolate. It's delicious. It is coffee, very rich. Yeah, you'd have to come here to Dong Hoi to really appreciate it. I think it's one of the best coffees I've had so far in Vietnam, but we've a long way to go. I'm so busy trying to remember to film the mixing of the coffee. I should have stirred my coffee first, then put the ice in. I forgot. Oh man, that's good. The locals are watching me, making sure I'm doing it right, but man, that is good coffee. So, coffee done. See if I can get out here before the sun gets too hot. One thing I would say, Dong Hoi, or pretty much all the lower regions of Vietnam, come in the summertime when Michelle and I are here, it's a bit hot. I would say it's not the best time to be here, but it's not the worst time to be here either. The locals tend to siesta and just rest during midday, so from about 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock there's very little going on in the streets. But you can see this beautiful park that runs along the promenade here, and these girls, they're out in the morning watering and doing all the gardening. Good morning. They work hard, but she's completely covered up. A lot of the Vietnamese do this actually, completely cover up, full coats, hats, just to keep the sun off. So I wanted to take you along this promenade here at Dong Hoi because, oh, a big lizard just gone across the path, beautiful lizard, because at this time of day it's quiet. Later in the evening, this is a hub of activity. It's absolutely thumping. There are kiddies entertainment in the square here. There are cafes and bars that open up all along the waterfront, and it's really rocking. It's great. And if you head off towards this big white building in the background here, there's a bridge taking you across to a lovely beach. There's a fantastic beach over here, but if you head over towards this white building, it's called Vincom. I don't like it, it's modern and ugly, but just beyond it is a great market, really fantastic. But this is a fishing port. The port entrance is over there, and it's a working fishing port. So I find it really fascinating. That does mean that the seafood is very good and very popular here in Dong Hoi. I'm going to be squinting because the sun is already at 9 o'clock, pretty fierce. So here we've got some fishing boats, 4 boats tied up together. You can probably see a few people bobbing around on there. They were probably out fishing last night. It's fascinating to see the coastal fishing along here. You'll see little huts. I'll see if I can find one. And there's one way down there. You can't really see it. I'll get some video and I'll pop it up. But there's these great big fishing nets, and just off of the coast there's a little hut where the fisherman lives, and they drop the nets down into the sea and pull them up, and they have these coracles. We call them coracles. I'm not sure what they're called in Vietnamese. A little round sort of rattan boat that uses one oar, and they sort of swing it backwards and forwards to go out to the net, which is cinched in the center. They open up the net and the catch drops into the coracle, or in a bucket in the coracle, and then they take it back to the little house. And I've seen the kids in the house getting really excited to see what the catch is. Good morning. You're fixing the net?
Yeah.
It's so friendly. There's a genuinely nice feeling I get with the locals here. Happy to see you as well. That can get a little bit less so in some of the more heavily touristic areas, and that's probably one of the things I wanted to say also. I don't want to spoil this area by having everybody come here, but there are not that many European, Australian, American tourists here. Mainly because in the town itself there's a limited amount of things to do. There's a limited amount of things to do in Hanoi, to be honest, apart from restaurants and cafes, but it's still a lovely town. But there is lots to do in the area. The world's largest cave is here, not far. They discovered it some years ago, but there's some wonderful smaller caves. I mean, I believe you can do a 3 or 4 day tour into the caves and sleep in the caves. There's a beautiful national park a little bit up from us towards that coastline. There's some sort of sand dunes. They're building and constructing on the sand dunes at the moment, so it's a little bit ugly. But before the sand dunes, there's some great seafood restaurants all peppered along the coastline. And the quality of the food on these little seafront cafes is quite amazing. If you're good with seafood, you'll really enjoy it. Now, I thought I'd come out early and catch a bit of filming before it got too hot, but it's getting too hot already, and that's why pretty much everything shuts down during the summer months, between maybe 10, 11 o'clock and late in the afternoon. So I'll do a little bit more filming later on today. Maybe we'll go for a slightly longer walk when the heat isn't so ferocious. I would say if you're coming to Dong Hoi, you shouldn't really just use this as a kicking off point to go and visit the caves. This is a great town to visit, but I would also say come in the winter months, spring and autumn. And if you like the heat, summer's fine. I'm going to tell you that Tree Hugger Cafe is one of the best I've been in, not just in Vietnam, but around the world. It's just got a really great vibe. The ethos behind the recycling and reusability of everything in the cafe is really good. The food is fantastic and the prices are really reasonable. Hello. Little school here. They're teaching English. The kids are all learning to speak English, so they love to come over and chat with you and show how good their English has become. One of the little girls there speaks such perfect English, it's quite amazing. They love to, don't be surprised if they approach you and want to practice their English. I've come on to the back streets Still a little bit sunny. There are cafes and restaurants. I've got a question. Take a look at this, tell me what you think it is, and at the end of the video I'll tell you what it is. Pause if you like. Prepping all the food for later on today. It's interesting to see in these little back streets, if you walk through them at different times of day, how much the function of each building changes from morning till night. There's still a fair bit of construction going on, not to the level of Sapa, but there's some construction going on, but pretty normal for a town this size. When we first arrived, we struggled to find food in the town. We were, really finding it hard to find any good local Vietnamese food. But that really comes down to it not being a touristic town, that places aren't sort of easily to pinpoint. But I had a good walk around the streets, and within maybe 4 or 5 blocks of our hotel, I found lots of really interesting cafes and eateries. So it's well worth exploring. Up until now, mostly I'm finding that if I see an expat or a foreigner, a tourist in the area, they're usually just here for, hello guys, hello. They're usually just here for a short time, like one night, visit the caves and away. So it's consequently, they're not catering food for tourists in the area. And what's happened is in the center of the town here, there's some great little hotels, hostels, and there are some fantastic little eateries catering to Western style food. But just a little bit back from the center, I'm talking maybe 2 or 3 blocks, there is a lot more restaurants that cater to Vietnamese food, and it's good food. Now, a lot of you, when you arrive in a place, will want to get some information, maybe in English, to explain to you what's going on in a town. I found a great little place. It's an information bureau run by an expat couple from New Zealand. Their names are Zach and Julie. They've got Dong Hoi information. They also run a great little Facebook group called Dong Hoi Stay Longer, to try and encourage people to stay here in Dong Hoi for longer periods of time. I'm going to pop in there now and say hello to them. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Dong Hoi information.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to the Dong Hoi Information Centre. We're retired early, Steve, and we'd been to Vietnam some years ago, and I fell in love with it. I thought Vietnam was fantastic. Dong Hoi came about really just by chance. We knew we didn't want to be in Hanoi and didn't want to be in Saigon, so we wanted to be on the coast and away from perhaps the traditional and bigger tourist towns. And Dong Hoi suits us nicely. It's a great town. There's Phong Nha, of course, up the road, and the majority of the tourist traffic seems to be heading to Phong Nha for the caves. But anyone who comes to Dong Hoi always mentions that had they known, they would have stayed longer. They would have booked those extra 2 days. It's quieter, the river walkways, fishing fleet, great beach. Everyone enjoys it, and that's the same comment we hear. I wish I'd known, I would have stayed or booked for longer. Up the river there, just over the canal and further up the river, there would be a kilometre of small street food, the small eateries, fishing fleet pools in there, so great little cafes up there. And where we are down here, of course, there's bigger restaurants, cafes, coffee shops, all that. So no, it's great. Good for the tourists. Come on in. Guest, you're welcome. You can join the video.
So I've got to stop briefly because Zach's going to go into his full information centre manager's hat. A couple just come in with their kids from Denmark.
Well, they're local residents. If you look across the road there, that hotel, they work there and live just 100 metres away. They live and work in this environment. within these 2 or 3 blocks. And that's the beauty of it. You know, when you're a foreigner and you're staying in a town, a small town like this, you rely so much on these people to embrace you and help you. And they've been fantastic. You know, from day one, they've done everything they can to help us, and we've made good friends here already.
So there you have it. That is Zach of Team Zach and Julie. Lovely guy. Get yourself across to Dong Hoi information if you want to know anything about the town, or contact them before you arrive here through the group Dong Hoi Stay Longer. Now you might have noticed before I head off, similar little mystery items on the sides of the roads here. So did you guess what they were? They're the little garbage bins or rubbish bins outside of people's houses, and they're completely made from recycled tyres. The bases, the lids, the handles, and every house in Dong Hoi seems to have one outside, and it's got the address, or possibly the phone number, I'm not sure, on top of each garbage bin. I think that's really cool. Very clever. Now a lot of people might say, why are you walking in the middle of the road, Steve? Why are you walking? Well, the reason in Hanoi you have to walk in the middle of the road is for this exactly.